Ladies and gentlemen, sure. Here's an intro in Jessica style, bold, direct, emotionally charged, and powerfully spoken to grip your audience right from the start. Listen to me, the reason they're ignoring you, overlooking you, underestimating you, is because you made yourself too available. But today, I need you to flip the script. Stop begging to be seen. Stop chasing validation. It's time you stop showing up everywhere and start showing up where it matters. You weren't born to be convenient, you were born to be valuable. And value doesn't chase, value gets chosen. This is your wake-up call. Let's talk. In a world that constantly glorifies hustle, presence, and being everywhere for everyone, many people fall into the trap of thinking that their worth is measured by their availability. They say yes to every call, every request, every invite, every demand, thinking this will make them more likable, more appreciated, more respected. But what often happens is the opposite. The more available you are, the more you become invisible. The more accessible you make yourself, the more people begin to assume you'll always be there. They stop valuing your presence because it's always present. They stop appreciating your energy because it's always given. The law of scarcity applies not just to money or luxury goods, but to people, time, and energy. What is always available loses its weight. What is always around becomes background noise. When you are always quick to respond, always quick to accommodate, always showing up without question, people get comfortable. They assume your presence is guaranteed, and in that assumption, the magic of your value fades. Think about the people you admire the most, the mentors you look up to, the voices you truly listen to. How often are they readily available? Rarely, because people of value protect their time. They understand that being everywhere for everyone leaves them empty for themselves. And the more you prioritize being constantly available, the less time you have to build yourself, evolve, or focus on the things that truly grow your value. Being available to everyone all the time is emotionally draining and mentally exhausting. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate, and if you tolerate being interrupted, undervalued, and overlooked, you're telling them that's what you accept. And the truth is, most people won't correct that. They will keep consuming what you keep offering. They will take as long as you keep giving. They won't stop until you create the stop. Boundaries aren't selfish, they are sacred. They protect your energy, your peace, and your focus. And without them, your value gets watered down in the flood of endless availability. This isn't about being rude, distant, or unkind. It's about being intentional. When you give your time, you're giving something you can never get back. When you give your presence, you're giving a piece of your life. So why give it away so freely to people who wouldn't notice if it disappeared? Value is created in mystery, in distance, in discipline. People respect what isn't always at their fingertips. They value what they have to earn, what they have to wait for, what they have to appreciate. But when you remove all effort, all challenge, all discipline from access to you, you also remove the sense of appreciation attached to your presence. The more available you are, the less people feel the urgency to respect your time. They'll show up late, cancel plans, forget promises, not because they're cruel, but because you didn't teach them that your time has limits. That your presence isn't a guarantee, that your energy is not an open buffet for whoever's hungry. Emotional availability, especially when unchecked, creates dependency, not connection, and dependency turns into entitlement. Now you've got people expecting you to be there even when you're drowning. Now you've got people calling you selfish the moment you say no, or setting you aside when they don't need you anymore, because you've positioned yourself not as a person of value, but as a resource. And resources get used, not respected. Value is not built through noise or through constant visibility. It is built in the quiet moments when you choose to step away and focus on yourself. In a culture that rewards showing up, posting constantly, always being on, the most powerful transformation happens when you retreat into the silence to refine yourself. The person who is always seen but never deep loses credibility fast. They become a surface act, predictable, always available, and rarely taken seriously. But the one who moves in silence, who lets their absence speak volumes, becomes unforgettable. There is strength in the unseen, in the things you don't announce, in the work you put in behind closed doors. Growth happens in the shadows before it ever shines in the light. Think of seeds. They don't grow in public. They take root underground, where no one is watching. Your value works the same way. It's not in how loud you are or how often you show up, but in how deeply you evolve when no one's watching. While everyone else is competing for attention, you are building something they can't even see coming. Silence isn't a weakness, it's a strategy. You don't need to broadcast every move you make, every win you claim, every step you take. The strongest people are often the quietest because they're not focused on proving. They're focused on becoming. There is a difference between popularity and impact. Popularity screams for attention. Impact works in silence and then delivers with force. If people see you everywhere but feel no shift when you speak, your presence is just noise. But when you speak after periods of quiet, when you appear with purpose, when your words carry weight because they come after focused preparation, that's when people start to listen. They don't listen because you've been everywhere. They listen because you've been working while everyone else was performing. You've been becoming while everyone else was pretending. It takes discipline to sit in silence. It takes maturity to not respond to everything, to not show up to every battle, to not attend every room you're invited to. But that's where value is refined. You're not just another voice, you are a force. And forces don't have to beg to be noticed. They are felt even before they are seen. When you build in silence, your results speak louder than your words ever could. Your transformation speaks for itself. The people who used to overlook you begin to wonder what changed, but it's not what changed. It's that you disappeared to become something stronger, something sharper, something impossible to ignore. Disappearing isn't about isolation. It's about elevation. You remove yourself from distractions, from empty attention, from shallow validation to build something more powerful within you. And when you return, you no longer need to introduce yourself. Your work does it for you. Your presence shifts the atmosphere, because you didn't just stay busy. You stayed intentional. You weren't seeking applause. You were chasing depth. You weren't proving yourself to the world. You were proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you imagined. That kind of inner power doesn't need an audience. It just needs discipline, patience, and silence. Value that is built in silence lasts longer than hype that's created in noise. Because hype fades, but value echoes, and that echo carries your legacy long after the spotlight dims. One of the deepest truths in life is that people always want what they can't easily access. It's a psychological and emotional principle that plays out in relationships, careers, influence, and respect. The harder something is to reach, the more value we assign to it. The easier it is to get, the faster we take it for granted. It's not always fair, but it's human nature, and when you make yourself constantly available, always picking up the phone, always saying yes, always showing up at their convenience, you strip yourself of mystery, of weight, of worth. Familiarity can breed contempt, and overexposure can breed indifference. The more people know they can have you whenever they want, the less they feel the need to value you when they do. Scarcity creates desire. Limited access creates urgency. That's why luxury brands stay valuable. They're not for everyone, not available everywhere, not easily attainable. And you are not less valuable than a brand. You are not meant to be everywhere, for everyone, at all times. You are not meant to answer every call, reply to every message, attend every event, or be accessible on demand. The moment people feel entitled to your time and energy, the moment they stop appreciating it. They stop being intentional with you. They stop putting effort into communication, into connection, into commitment, because in their minds you'll always be there, and that illusion kills respect. The things we fight for are the things we remember. The relationships that challenge us to grow are the ones we value. If people didn't have to work to access you, they won't feel the weight of your presence, and when you're always around, they won't notice when you're missing. That's why distance, silence, and boundaries are powerful tools. They reset expectations. They remind people that your time is not a donation. Your energy is not up for grabs. Your presence is not automatic. And if they want access to you, they have to match the value you bring. The truth is, people respect what they have to earn. That includes you, your attention, your energy, your insight, your care. These things are valuable. But if you offer them without requiring effort, without requiring reciprocation, without requiring intention, you become another background character in someone else's story. Not because you lack worth, but because you didn't protect it. You didn't demand it be seen, and people can't value what they don't recognize as rare. You don't have to beg for attention when you are rare. You don't have to force people to care when your presence holds weight. And it starts by stepping back, pulling your energy out of places where it's being drained, not appreciated, walking away from one-sided dynamics where you're being used for convenience. Stop giving your all to people who treat you like an option. Because the moment you withdraw that availability, you create space for people to realize what they've been missing. And those who truly value you will feel the absence. They'll shift, they'll reach. They'll show up differently, not because you demanded it, but because you modeled it. You taught them that access to you is a privilege, not a guarantee. When you become harder to reach, you become easier to respect. When you become more selective, people become more intentional. And when you raise your standards, people either rise to meet them or fall away. But either way, you win, because you're no longer being drained by trying to prove your worth. You're protecting your value by understanding that you were never meant to be consumed by everyone. You were meant to be chosen by those who are ready to honor what you carry. Being valuable requires growth, not just presence. So many people confuse being seen with being significant. They think that just by showing up, they've done enough. They think that being constantly available somehow means they're progressing. But there's a massive difference between movement and growth. You can be moving all day long, showing up for others, responding to every message, attending every event, and still be stuck in the same place mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. Growth happens in the work, in the discomfort, in the moments when no one's clapping for you, when no one's watching, when no one even knows what you're building. Presence is external, but growth is internal. It doesn't always look impressive on the outside, but it changes everything on the inside. A valuable person is someone who's growing in silence, refining their craft, strengthening their mindset, developing their self-control, deepening their character. They're not just visible, they're evolving. They're not just around, they're becoming sharper, wiser, more intentional, and because of that, their presence starts to carry weight. People don't just see them, they feel them. Not because they've been everywhere, but because they've done the inner work that makes their presence meaningful. There's a heaviness to someone who has grown deeply. They walk into a room and you notice the energy shift, not because they're loud or flashy, but because they carry something real. The trap of always being available is that it distracts you from the work that matters. You spend so much time trying to show up for others that you neglect showing up for yourself. You sacrifice your peace, your time, your focus trying to prove your worth through performance. But performance without growth is empty. It's short-lived. It burns out. Growth, on the other hand, is sustainable. It builds resilience. It prepares you for opportunities. It roots you so deeply in who you are that you no longer feel the need to perform for validation. You no longer need to be constantly seen because you're already secure in your value. When you focus on growing instead of constantly being present, you start to realize that it's okay to miss out. It's okay not to respond to every call. It's okay not to be in every room, because the version of you that will walk into the right room at the right time with the right energy, that version is being developed behind the scenes. That version of you doesn't rush to be seen. That version of you is being shaped in the quiet moments where no one is applauding. And that version of you will not only be seen, but remembered. Not because you forced it, but because you became too valuable to ignore. Growth demands sacrifice. It demands time alone. It demands intentional choices. It asks you to put your energy where it matters most. Into your purpose, your healing, your evolution. It's not always glamorous. It doesn't always come with likes or recognition, but it pays off in the long run. Because while others are busy trying to be everywhere at once, trying to be available for everything, you're investing in becoming someone that's worth waiting for, worth respecting, worth remembering. Your value isn't found in how fast you reply, how much you show up, or how often you're seen. Your value is found in who you're becoming when nobody's watching, and that kind of value builds a legacy. That kind of value makes people take notice, not because you were available, but because you were becoming something worth seeking out. Respect is earned by what you offer, not how often you show up. In a society that celebrates visibility, many people believe that their worth comes from being present all the time, from constantly showing up and making themselves available to others. But presence without purpose is empty. Being there for everyone all the time does not automatically make people respect you. In fact, the more frequently you show up without offering anything meaningful, the more likely you are to be taken for granted. People don't respect repetition, they respect substance. They respect when your presence is attached to something powerful, something real, something that brings impact. Showing up is not enough if you're not bringing value with you. Anyone can be present, but not everyone can be effective. Not everyone can walk into a room and shift the atmosphere. That power doesn't come from just being there. It comes from what you've built inside of yourself. It comes from your preparation, your perspective, your mindset, and your discipline. Respect isn't handed to you for effort alone. It's earned by how you make people feel, what you teach them, what you model, and what you represent. It's not about how many times they've seen you. It's about what they experience when you show up. If you're always present but never growing, if you're always showing up but never bringing transformation, your presence becomes predictable, and predictable presence gets ignored. People start expecting you to be there, but they stop expecting anything from you. That's a dangerous place to live in because you start becoming background noise. You're seen but not heard. You're there but not respected. And that happens when your presence becomes common, when your name is attached to consistency but not excellence. The ones who are respected are the ones who show up with purpose, who bring clarity, who carry wisdom, who give value through who they are, not just what they do. When people respect you, it's not because you're available all the time. It's because they know that when you show up, something shifts. They know you're not just showing up to take space, you're showing up to bring change. And that kind of presence takes work. It takes discipline, intentionality, and a deep commitment to becoming better. You have to be honest with yourself. Are you just showing up, or are you offering something powerful? Are people used to you because you're always there, or do they value you because you bring something they can't get anywhere else? Availability can become a mask for insecurity. Some people show up all the time because they're afraid to be forgotten. They're afraid that if they're not seen, they won't be valued, but true respect is never tied to how frequently you're seen. It's tied to what people feel when you are seen. You can be gone for a while, but if you've been developing yourself in that time, the moment you return, people take notice. Not because you forced them to, but because you carry something different. You walk differently, you speak differently, you lead differently because you've grown. Respect doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to value. It responds to excellence. It responds to boundaries, confidence, and growth. The people who are respected most are not the ones who are constantly available. They are the ones who are deeply valuable. They've put in the work to be someone of substance, and because of that, their presence means something. Their words carry weight. Their actions inspire others, not because they're always there, but because when they are, they bring something nobody else can.